Hello people, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is Sorin, and yesterday we made a video about 9 upcoming tanks. In Wall of Tanks, obviously those vehicles have their statistics final in game. You can see them, their models, you can see their statistics, like you can right click on them and see what's their damage per minute, what's their average penetration, what guns are they using, what mobility, and so on and so forth. And today, instead of making a 9 tanks review in 20 minutes, we're gonna take the time to dedicate 2 hours the object 452K, which is gonna be the first tank in this list out of the 9 upcoming vehicles, or actually the 9 that are having final statistics inside the game. And keep in mind that this is a preview only on my opinion and only on what I think I'm gonna happen, or actually what's gonna happen. So don't take me very serious and just watch this video as an entertainment. And before I start this video, I want to compare the vehicle itself to the 279E, the Object 780, and a vehicle that has the same alpha damage of 560, the AMX M4 54. What do you think about this vehicle? First of all, the vehicle itself, it could probably end up once again in an assembly shop, because I don't think there is going to be any kind of black market or trading caravans, especially with a tier 10. That should be tier 9s at the very least, but not tier 10s. The tier 10s should be the tanks that are asking for more resources, for more money, because the last time, actually this around this time last year, we had the Object 780 as an assembly shop, and this vehicle costs roughly between 150 euros to 200. So probably they switch the meta, they give it some DPM boost. I'm not really sure how they're gonna monetize this, but at the first, the vehicle looks pretty cancer to fight against. And why is that? Well, in this comparison, it has pretty much the best damage per minute, and actually is the same damage per minute that you get on the same gun. Well, not on the same gun, on the same caliber, the 130 caliber, on the AMX M4. So it's gonna have pretty much the same firepower as an AMX M4, which the MX M4 used to be quite meta, and I still feel it's a very solid vehicle, especially I played on Onslaught. I wanted really to see how it performs with the 130mm. And what can I say, the vehicle itself, the gun, is very solid. You obviously have 260 penetration, which is pretty much around the middle in this comparison, whereas the Object 780 just has slightly better standard penetration, which is not a problem. The damage is unique for a heavy tank, for a Russian heavy tank of 560. It's not as low as the 440 that you get on the 279E, but it's not as high as you get on Object 780. Why do I compare this to the 780? Well, it is because it's assembly shop vehicle, and on top of that, the vehicle are fairly similar by looks and armor wise. Whenever we're gonna take a look at the armor, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Next, the caliber of the vehicle is 130, which is obviously the same as those vehicles in the comparison, excepting the 132mm that are using on the 279E. And this is why the disparity damage is from 530 all the way to 560, not including the 440. There's the ammo capacity. It carries enough rounds. It actually carries the same amount of rounds as the AMX M4, which 17,000 potential damage, that should be enough to carry like 3 HE rounds and AP. And does this vehicle have APCRs or hit as their premium rounds? Let me actually check. It's actually hit. So yeah, that's actually looking fairly decent. Obviously, the hit has 320, whereas are not as competitive as the 340, actually 320 that are nerfed version of the 279. Whereas the 780 is using APCR with 311, which are just really nice, especially for longer ranges. And the MX M4 once again are having the lowest penetration out of all on their premium shells at just under 300. So this vehicle, the ammunition wise, is actually looking very decent. I'm talking about the hit shell velocity. It's actually 950, which is tiny touch worse than what you have on your standard rounds, and it's pretty much the same as you have the hit on the 279E. So kind of predictable in terms of the gun. Next, what you have over here, it is the gun handling, and by the aiming time, it looks like it's the same as the AMX M4, 2.4 seconds. That's actually not Not bad. It's pretty much part on par with the 279E, if you ask me. But the 780 has such good aiming time. On top of that, the vehicle has pretty much the worst dispersion, but not that much compared to the other one. Whereas the other competitor are 0.35 and 0.34. So it's not the biggest difference out of all. And on top of that, the vehicle has same dispersion as the 279E, the Object 780, and you can arguably say it has worse dispersion than the M4, but 0.02 is not that much. You'll still need to make sure that we are aiming our shells. But 0.08 retraverse, which means you can snapshot whenever you're stationary, the same as you can do with 279E, the 780, but something you cannot really do with the M4 for M454. So in terms of gun handling, I mean the dispersion on paper are looking kind of bad, but who knows, probably you want to use a vertical stabilizer and you just feel much better. Next, the vehicle cell has 20 degrees of gun elevation, which is very flexible. 5 degrees more than you have on other three vehicles on this comparison. On top of that, you have 7 degrees of gun depression, much better than the 279 is only 5. And on top of that, you have 7, the same as you do on the 780. So if you already have the 780 or the Object 140, you pretty much know all the positions that you can occur with this vehicle. But it's 1 degree less than the M454, which is fine. I mean, with 7 degrees, it's still very flexible to fight on most terrain. In terms of mobility, if you ask me, it's fairly decent for a heavy tank, especially for its weight. It's a bit slow, but considering its potential, I guess it's fairly balanced. It has pretty much, actually, no, it's not the heaviest. It's the same as 279E and 780, but the 780 goes 10 km an hour faster than those vehicles. So they're pretty much part on part with the 279E and the AMX M4. And on medium terrain, you're pretty much like as slow as the 279E, and especially on soft as well. So mobility wise, it's pretty much part on par with the 279E, if you ask me. Reverse speed is 15, which is very nice. It's the same as the 780 and the same as the AMX M4. But the 278 is struggling to go backwards, but obviously we all know that this vehicle doesn't really need to go backwards that much. Yet the engine power is 13.64, which is fine, I guess. I mean, you still want to use the turbo and you go, I think, to 15, I guess, with the turbo, if my math is correct, which should be fairly flexible. Obviously, it's slower than on a hill than the AMX M4, which has almost. Oh, wait, no, that's a mistake because that's the actual horsepower, which I think works out to 15 power to weight ratio. So this vehicle with a turbo is gonna have the same horsepower per ton as you have on the AMX M4 stock, and obviously the 780 can go tiny touch quicker obviously because it has obviously faster mobility, faster power to weight ratio, but the tank really lacks. I think its armor is really lacking, but because it's so slopey, I think you have pretty much a very good vehicle, the Object 780. I mean, it's not broken, but it's not bad. It's right in the middle, if you ask me about the 780. So moving on to the terrain resistances, here you can literally see they're pretty much all the same, especially for the Russians. So that's fairly good. Turret traverse is a bit slow. Tank traverse it's part on part with the 279E. And here, in terms of the armor, the hull armor is not gonna be obviously as good as you have on the 79E, because as you can see with 8 rounds of 260, the upper plate it's yellow. Actually the mid plate it's gonna be 250 roundish if you face this vehicle at its own height, I guess. It's gonna be 240, 250. That's gonna be enough to bounce mostly of the standard shells, and the lower plate it's fairly visible, it's very big, and I mean only versus tanks that are fairly tall is gonna be on auto ricochet, but versus most tank is gonna be obviously it's gonna be easy to pen. It's gonna be 200, so mostly of the standard round tier 8s are gonna penetrate this reliable. The upper plate as well is gonna be pretty weak. I mean, not weak, but fairly balanced. And on top of that, at flat ground, this vehicle is gonna have a cupola to fight, so it's not gonna be as overpowered on the flat ground. But whenever you look at the turret and you start using your 7 degrees of gun depression, you, I mean, you still have over here a rinoceronte kind of place over here, because the tank it's actually speaking out its wait, let me lock this in. Okay, there you go. Whenever you are looking down, your forehead goes a bit up, so whenever you are using, even though you might actually hide it whenever you're using your max potential of gun depression, yeah, this vehicle is going to become really impenetrable in the hands of a really good player. But there are only 7 degrees of gun depression, so it's not going to be something that overpower like 12 degrees or 10 degrees as you have on a chieftain. But still, look at this turret. That turret is literally not on the turret is no green anywhere. You can really penetrate the cheeks as you can do with the 780. You don't have the big hat over there as you have on the 780. You don't have the second cupola. So yeah, this vehicle is a big step up from the 780. Only if it will be sold, I mean, or in auction shop. So yeah, this vehicle might actually worth the 200 euros comparing to the 780, which doesn't get much armor for its price, but obviously you get fairly decent gun with yet low DPM. But this vehicle doesn't lack the DPM, so it's gonna be at 780 version 2.0 probably. And on top of that, in terms of armor, comparing it to the 780, you can actually half side scrape because this thing is fairly good. But obviously, whenever you are fully sideways, yeah, this vehicle is gonna become a weak point, the same as you get on most pike nose tanks, which which will be pretty much you want to face your enemy straight on, the same as you want to do with the AMX M4, because whenever you start to angle your armor, you get this shoulder as a weak point, the same as you do with pretty much all vehicles in this comparison to 790 as well. As you can see, whenever you angle it, whenever you try to side scrape, the shoulder becomes green. But next, what you have is a lot of hit points. You have 2,400 hit points, which is pretty much as you had on the pre-nerfed version of the 279E. But right now, you are the king of hit points, especially in this comparison. With 2,400, with 2,400, you can go up to 2,520, I guess, with fully field mods. So that's enough of hit points to spare. And on top of that, the engine health, the track, and everything is pretty much part on part with the other two Russian vehicles in this comparison. What is really weird, it's what's up with this camo? I actually need to pause the video right now and actually double check if this is actually correct. Actually, I cannot really pause the video on this program, but what I'm actually gonna go real quick inside the game and take a look here to see if the concealment is actually this big. And yeah, it is. It's 18 stationary. Okay, but also the vehicle is gonna be really small. Actually, where can I see the concealment? Okay, there it is. It's 18 base, stationary, 9 moving. What? I did not expect that. That is like I haven't noticed it. But yeah. What can I say? This is gonna be really sneaky for a heavy tank. And yeah, it's lacking the views range of 390, but who cares? They are pretty much the same as AMX M4. And your fire chance is 15, the same as with the 780. Only the 278, obviously, it's not gonna really catch fire that much. But yeah, I don't know what to say about the concealment. Probably it's gonna be patched up, and whenever this thing is gonna be more closer towards its deadline, whenever it's gonna get released. Probably some statistics are gonna be changed, I guess. I cannot really say yes or no. But the vehicle is gonna be quite sneaky if you ask me. I mean, if you put the camouflage, I mean, I don't know if you, well, for science, if you put concealment on, you can have 19 camo whenever you move on 35 stationary. Wow, that is something. But yeah, I don't think you have a Russian tank that really uses concealment as its skill. But now moving on to its actual setup, let's actually put a snapshot. What else shall we put? Off-road driving? Do you have off-road driving on your thing? Probably you do. I think this is my desired setup. But now if you max it out and you get this, probably you want to put plus 7% maintaining speed, better despair, actually better accuracy, some better view range, mobility slot. Give me the 2 kilometer an hour because artillery aren't that popular anymore. And on top of that, internal module durability. Because if you put the other one, look at your AMRAC health, it's only 150 and the fuel tanks as well. So you're gonna catch fire more often if you are using lightweight mounting points. But on top of that, you actually, I think you get better repair speed. Actually, by the looks, no, you don't get anything. But obviously, you got the other advantages. And this is what the vehicle is looking like whenever it's fully loaded out. Now, let's actually put some hardening on it. And on top of that, turbocharger. And the last thing should be either, I mean, the vehicle has really nice base DPM. You can either put something like a gun rammer, or you can actually switch it up for vertical stabilizer. I mean, or you can either drop the hit points. I mean, that's something not very smart to do for something else. But on top of that, you can actually drop the turbo as well because I mean now on a 278 it's mandatory to use turbo just to move around the map quicker. So yeah, you're pretty much limited to either vertical stabilizer if you will not really mind. Actually, you can put rammer if you don't mind the bad gun handling, but on top of that, you can put vertical stabilizer and have bad DPM. But if you put, let's actually put combat ratio. I mean, the DPM doesn't really lack that much. But boy, this is looking kind of crazy at the moment. Wait, actually, we can switch the turbocharger for probably like an mobility system. So you get on top of that a tiny touch worse dispersion, and you can drop this for a rammer. I mean, yeah, it kind of drops down, but literally not that much. But you still have all the power to weight ratio and all the mobility to boot. But on paper, this vehicle is looking fairly solid. But once again, if you have only a flat map where you are not hiding your lower plate, yeah, this vehicle is not gonna be performing that well. But yeah, the main selling point of this vehicle is probably gonna be the turret. I mean, even at this angle, it's whenever you're using gun depression, yeah, it's still like really hard to penetrate. Yeah, especially those shoulders over here. But yeah, let's not get all too worried. Wait, this thing is only 40? But why is it? Oh, because it's hit. With AP is gonna overmatch, obviously. So any 121 millimeter and on caliber, higher, actually 121 plus millimeter, are gonna be managing to overmatch this. But the same as you do with the 752, you can just whip whenever you're reloading and going back. And like this, hiding and going back. So, let me know, guys, what do you think about this vehicle? What do you think is gonna happen with it? Is it gonna be a Clan Wars reward, or do you think it's gonna be an assembly shop? But on paper, the vehicle looks fairly solid, especially if this is gonna be for really competitive players that know how to use 7 degrees work, that know how to hide at a weak point, and that know how to obviously hide the lower plate and the upper plate. But other than that, Um, is this straight out OP? It really depends on the player, probably, because as I mentioned, if you know how to make it work, if you know how to hide its weaknesses, then yeah, the vehicle is gonna be very, very nice. But if it's gonna be for the people that think that it's a 279E and can go in front and you don't give a damn about the enemy's premium shells on flat ground, yeah, this vehicle is not gonna take the most shell. But considering it's a slightly better object to wait, I actually switched because I think you wanna say this because it's a slightly better 780. Yeah, I feel like it's still gonna be a very good decent vehicle because the 780 it is a fairly nice tank. And keep in mind you don't have the weak points as you do with the 780. So yeah, this was the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you legends around with the 8 vehicles that are upcoming.